All right, hey everyone. Mark here, Mark P Markets. Thanks for joining me for another Greenbridge Investing Market Analysis. So today I'm going to change things up slightly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do my Bitcoin analysis like I usually do, but I'm not going to cover the other markets like the S&P and NASDAQ and gold and all those other things that I take about 25 minutes to cover. If you would like to see those markets, please put it in the chat and I will cover what you'd like to see. I wanna focus these streams more on your questions and markets that you're more interested in, okay? So I'm just gonna focus on Bitcoin and then I'm gonna go straight to your questions. All right, so also, if you have an altcoin or a stock or whatever it is, please place it in the chat now so that I can get to it when I get to your questions. And if it's an altcoin, make sure to put USD or USDT after it. Otherwise, I will spend 3 hours on the wrong symbol that you don't want to see. Okay, so just make sure you do that. And if you like to share what country or what city you're from in the chat, that's always a fun fact. You know, something nice to see. Okay, anyway, I'm broadcasting from the northern New Jersey area. Okay, greater New York City area, northern New Jersey. That's where my accent is from. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's get into this. So this is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Also, you know, when you put the stuff in the chat, sometimes it takes me a little while to get to it. So just please be patient. All right, first things first. I just want to cover the economic calendar. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because there's really not much to talk about here. All right, we had the big events over the week before. So we have, beginning tomorrow, we have Bank of Canada, Governor Macklem's speech. I wouldn't worry about that. This is mostly important for Forex pairs anyway. And Forex has been miserable. I don't know how all these people that are bragging about Forex profits, I don't know where they're coming up with this stuff. But anyway, all right. So China, Consumer Price Index, that's also tomorrow. These are not big numbers. On the 10th, we have Germany, Harmonized Index of Consumer Prices. By the way, you should check this out on your own economic calendar. It's just always a good idea to be aware of any important scheduled economic events in order to manage risk. Okay. On the 10th, we have for the U.S. Consumer Price Index, exclude food and energy. That's an inflationary number. Again, these are not big market movers. We have also for Australia, unemployment rate. That's probably going to come out in the evening, Eastern time. We have employment change. That's again for Australia. And then we have, what is this? What is that, Thursday? Yeah. Okay. No, that's Wednesday, Thursday. Right, so we have for the British pound, we have gross domestic product. Again, no big deal. And then we have on the 12th, Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index for the U.S. Again, these are not big deals. On the 14th, European GDP. On the 14th, we have Japan GDP. All right, so it's a pretty quiet week in terms of economic reports. There's really not much to worry about there. All right, this is really just a matter of how the dollar behaves and if there are any surprises or any type of company reports that could set the tone for the market. We are in the holiday rally, right? We're in the middle of the Santa rally. Things can change, but we just have to basically look at price structures and levels. All right, so let me get on here with Bitcoin. Again, you should take a look at your own economic calendar for like the dates and the timestamps and all that stuff. All right, so let's get started here. First things first, I wrote a TradingView article the other day. And I published it when Bitcoin was fooling around in this area here. It was just this buy signal was trying to develop. And the point of the article was the structure favored what is going on now. I didn't call a specific trade. I just talked about the support and resistance levels. And there is a buy signal here, okay? That pin bar situation took out the high. Now, this is a tough trade to take because this is not in trend mode, or at least at that time. This was inside of a consolidation. So, and it's right basically on the border of this purple box. And that is a resistance area. Okay, so it's a tough trade to take unless you're willing to take the risk. Anyway, the structure favors this move. And we had test of the high. We have this high, this whole consolidation, which I wrote about, is basically a higher low consolidation. Higher lows typically lead to higher highs. And that is what it's trying to do right now. So what should you do in these situations? Well, if you're not long, there's nothing to do. If you're not long, if you're chasing this, right, which a lot of people are going to do, because all the YouTube gurus are going to come out and tell you that Bitcoin is going to make you a millionaire, and all the other dozens of nonsense videos that they're putting out, you're taking a lot of risk into this area, and that's all that matters here. Not the reward, the risk, because this could turn into a few things. This can turn into a failed high. This can turn into a double top. It's possible too that it can break out and keep going, because theoretically that's what it should do, okay, based on this structure. But what matters is the risk. Now, if you got long earlier and your risk happens to be about 3,000 or 4,000 points, if you managed to take such a position, then you let this thing ride and you see if this thing breaks out, maybe it continues, because that's what you do with a strong market. But if it turns and gives you a hard time, you get a failed high, we get a bearish pin bar, we get something that says that the selling pressure is beginning, right? The buying pressure is going away. If we get something like that, there's nothing there right now, then that's when you make adjustments, okay? But until then, you let the market work for you. There's nothing else to do. Now, excuse me, I see some comments from Travel, and I want to comment on that, because having some sort of sentiment here, or having your own personal feeling about something, especially in these areas like this, that's what leads to an opinion, basically, or going against the market when there's really no reason to. You're not listening to the market. You're focused on something else. So we'll talk about that here in a moment. But just as far as the structure goes with Bitcoin, higher low, higher high, I would be anticipating a higher high unless a new piece of information comes and interrupts this chart. Okay, there's nothing there. Now it can come out of nowhere, but there's nothing there. Why not go long here? Why not buy the breakout? Well, there's a lot of risk associated with that. That's the problem with it. That's why I don't like it. It's an aggressive trade if you're into that. But let me just highlight the risk here for a moment. If you take the breakout, right, which would be what? Basically 67,014, whatever that number is. So you figure 67,050, something like that. It goes there and you get long. Well, your risk is going to be a lot more than 4,000 points, because your stop, I mean, you could try putting a stop at the breakout candle low, which is very likely to get stopped out, right? That's at 63,300. So right there, that's 4,000 points, and that's a pretty easy tap out for that. This won't require much effort for this thing to pull back, fake out, and tap you out. The stop should really go at around 6109, so basically around 60,000. That is the market-defined risk right there in that area. So that's why, if you're not willing to take that risk, right, basically buying it, the breakout and taking that risk, then you shouldn't take the trade, because this thing's going to have to run basically, 7,000 or 8,000 more points just to get to 1-to-1. So as a swing trade, it doesn't make sense. And as far as inventory or like an investment, a position trade, structures or charts aren't as important. It's about sizing, and these are retail price levels. These are not wholesale levels. So if you're into investing and you want to do that breakout type of thing, you take a tiny bite. And yeah, you get to ride it as far as it goes a little bit. But again, it's long term. So it doesn't matter if it runs up another couple of thousand points and then gives back 10,000 points, right? That you shouldn't matter as an investor, because you're not going all in at the top. Okay, does that make sense? So that's the Bitcoin situation. As long as, so to sum all of this up, as long as 60K holds, right? That's the support that's in play right now. This level right here, that's the support that's in play. And if that breaks, then you're looking at this level here. As long as this general area holds, as long as price maintains this area and does not break it, okay, meaning maybe price fakes out, maybe price fools around inside this midpoint area for a few more weeks or whatever, okay, as long as this zone is not compromised, the bottom of the zone, and there's no price close below that zone, Bitcoin's not going lower, okay? That's just what the market's telling us. So if it breaks that zone and it breaks it with some sort of emphasis, basically weak close below that zone, then okay, fine. Then we're probably going to test some lower supports at that point, okay? But I would not call a bear market. Keep in mind, at some point the market will cycle, okay? But there's no way to know when that point is. It could be in February, you know, who knows? The chart will give us some clues, and that's the best we can do. Now, let me just address some questions here. Hey, Elizabeth, good to see you. Just want to say hi to a few people. Travel, Mr. Plow and Peter, thanks for stopping by. Always good to see everyone. Bart, okay, we got the usuals. Hey, Bart, Farhat, Michelle, hey, good to see you. X, all right, cool. So definitely we'll get to your questions here. Let me just address, so Travel puts in the chat here, too many dumb people are making money just because they buy and hold. It's senseless. I hate it. That's what he wrote here in the chat. Now, first, you shouldn't hate anything, right? You're assigning like a feeling to the situation. I understand the frustration. Trust me. I have the same feeling when I see a fake guru start a YouTube channel and in 1 month accumulate 70,000 subscribers when all he's doing is yelling at you over the video. All he's doing is yelling at you, asking you to donate money to whatever the hell he's doing, and showing off all these calls that he made 3 months ago when everything was along, right? It's nonsensical. I understand the frustration, but when it comes to markets, we can't have any kind of positive or negative feeling. It is what it is, so you can't fight it. These same people, you have to understand, the same people that are getting long now, maybe some of these people have been long from much lower prices. Maybe they were willing to take the risk at 20K. Maybe they were willing to take the risk at 30K, okay? The thing is, they're taking risk, whether they realize it or not, and they're risking money. So the market gives them a random reward. Great. They are relying on hope. Maybe they're relying on senseless euphoria. It's possible, but that's the random nature of the market. These same people are going to be the ones, especially the ones that are buying now, okay, in this area. The ones that are buying now are going to be weak because if this thing turns now and starts breaking supports, they're going to have the worst prices. Those people, especially if they're buying on margin or if they're buying like on BitMEX and all that other stuff using leverage, they're going to get margined out of their positions, all right? And that's usually what breaks the supports. And that is what provides a buying opportunity for everyone else, okay, for people that know. So, you know, you can't let that kind of frustration get to you. It's pointless. You just have to listen to the market because the reason why that's also ineffective, that type of thought process, because I see here you try to explain something about being sad. Basically, you should invest based on your risk. Bitcoin holders buy based on shared narrative. Right. So they're just buying, they're reacting to nonsense and the market's paying them. That's what the market does. Okay. That's just part of the game. And that's dumb in my opinion. And then you say here with Bitcoin, they're being right. So it's the only reason why I am sad. But hey, it's the name of the game, right? Don't be sad. So markets cycle and there will be another buying opportunity, right? When, why didn't you buy at 40K? Why didn't you buy at 30K? Someone was willing to buy there, and if they were willing to take that risk, hey, things worked out that way. But a lot of these same people, they're going to get caught. When the market pulls back, the ones that have really strong hands, okay, the ones that maybe they're long from 15K and they don't care what they give back, that is a strong hand. And they're going to sit through any pullback. If Bitcoin goes to zero, well, that's where it goes, right? But no matter what they do, you can't have a feeling associated with it. That's really all I have to say about that. And you can't fight the market. As much as you don't like what it's doing what it's going to do, okay? And at some point, it will cycle the other way. And when it provides an opportunity, it's up to you to recognize the opportunity, and you have to be willing to take the risk. If you're not willing to take the risk, no matter what your reasoning is, no matter what the logic is, if you're not willing to take the risk, then there's no reward. Okay, so it's that simple. But the key point is don't have a feeling. There should be no feelings. You shouldn't be sad. You shouldn't be this. You shouldn't be that. The market is the market. We just have to accept it and stay out of its way, basically. Okay, especially when it's doing stuff like this and you don't like what it's doing. All right, so that's Bitcoin. Man, I talked about that for 15 minutes. See what I mean? That's why I had to cut everything else. All right, so let's go back to these questions here. I see Elizabeth, Ethereum. So let's take a look at Ethereum. Now, I know Ethereum has been out of control too, right? Let's take a look at this. So Ethereum is really turning into a leader here. Look at this, right? Higher high. What's the price of Ethereum? 47.61. This thing's up 144 points today, 47.95 is the high. Now, Elizabeth, I remember you asking if you should hold this thing above 45. Remember that? I remember like a week ago, whatever, and I told you, sure, hold it. No reason to get out. And it's still, there's no reason to get out. Look at this bullish pin bar that occurred a couple of days ago. Bullish pin bar, higher low, okay, higher high. This thing is just out of control. You know, maybe it has to do with all the NFT stuff going on. There's a lot of nonsense going on. And a lot of it is, you know, we're probably near a market top. 5,000, Elizabeth, is a good place to be looking as a profit target, because at this moment, there's no reason to do anything here, right? It's not a short. This is definitely not a short, not with this structure. There's no sell signal. We don't even have a bearish pin bar. We have nothing. We don't even have a red candle. So maybe it hesitates over the next few days, but don't worry about that. What you need to watch are the support levels, even the minor ones in this case. And your support that's in play right now is right there, right? The bottom of that pin bar, which is what, 43.29. So if it can maintain that price, even if it pulls back, even if you see some nonsense and some noise, maybe it consolidates within this zone over here or something like that, okay? As long as this level is maintained, maybe it goes slightly below the level, okay, slightly, and then reverses. You have to watch for all that stuff in this type of situation because this structure is bullish. You can't argue with that, right? So at this point, I would say 5,000 is likely. I mean, we're only, what, a couple of hundred points? We're like, 250 points away or whatever. That's not that unreasonable for this thing. So I would certainly consider that as a profit target. I think you've mentioned that you've locked in some profits along the way. So if you've done that, there's really nothing to do here but let it ride, okay? If it gives you a hard time over the next few days, meaning you get a bearish pin bar or something develop up in here, maybe you want to lock in a little more, but I wouldn't be in a hurry to get out of this, right, until it starts breaking supports. That's really when you should make that type of adjustment. Now, one thing you can do if you want to just take yourself more out of the equation, which is always a good thing to do, is you just put a trailing stop, right, at basically a reasonable area. At this point, that would be below this low, okay? And at some point, this thing may turn right around and tap you out. And that's the thing with a trailing stop. Or if you want to use the previous candle low, but the chances are greater that you will get stopped out. But the thing is, it locks in more profit. The trade-off, of course, the reason why you would even think about a trailing stop is it opens you up for the market to pay you more if the market wants to continue in this mode, because this structure is completely intact and there's nothing that says it wants to turn the other way right now. Okay, so why not let it pay you if that's what it's saying it wants to do? Things can change quickly, but until they do, there's nothing to do. Okay, so thanks for asking about Ethereum. And yeah, I don't see a pullback because of the signs of a pullback. And again, like I said, if you see a pin bar develop over the next couple of days, maybe it goes higher, that would be signs of a potential pullback coming. There's nothing there yet. So that's what you need to keep an eye out for. Okay, Mr. Plow, what exactly? Okay, so that's that. Okay, read that. Peter from Slovakia, would you mind checking Dash? Thanks a lot. Okay, okay, let's take a look. Dash, USDT. So, I mean, this one has been asleep for a while. I remember when this one back in the day was like all the hype. Anyway, so let's see what's going on here. This thing is trying to change its tune, right? There's a higher low here at 170, right? Higher low. You have another higher low at 185, and you have this higher high breakout attempt. Obviously, it's trying to follow along. Looks similar to that Bitcoin situation, and you have Ethereum on the highs. So while those are good things, I mean, this is how it should be behaving, right? In light of that, here's the thing that I don't like about it. You're still at a resistance level. So while it looks good, if you're in from a lower price, okay, fine. Let it ride. See if it can clear that resistance. But if these other markets have a hard time, this thing's in a vulnerable location. Like, I wouldn't want to be long here. I would certainly not want to be long at these prices. I don't care how vertical that candle looks, because there's so much, like, in terms of obstacles ahead of it. I mean, you have all this area, up in here where it can run into problems. I mean, just look at these old support levels. Look at this level over here, right? I mean, you have all that to deal with, and S&P, Bitcoin and Ethereum are on their highs, right? So they're likely to pull back at some point soon, and where's this thing going to go? So I don't like the relative strength or relative weakness position. I don't like it that. So if you're in from a good price, then there's nothing to do. Let it ride. If you want to go for the breakout and you want to take that chance, well, your risk is going to be defined by this low, right? Kind of like that Bitcoin or even that Ethereum low that we just looked at, 185.20. You can round that to 185. That's where you're defining your risk from. Okay, so right now this thing's at 208. You're going to have to risk what, $30 or whatever that is, $35 or whatever. So you need to make at least that to justify. And if it gives you a hard time before that, it's just not worth the trouble. That's what I don't like about these situations, trying to buy these breakouts in these type of things. Anyway, so that's Dash. But other than that, I mean, it's the structure is good. You have higher lows. Theoretically, it should go for the higher high. It's just what happens if Ethereum turns or Bitcoin turns. Just something to keep in mind. We are nearer a top, if anything. People are saying Bitcoin's going to go to 85,000. People are predicting 95,000. People are saying Ethereum's going to go to 10,000. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? When you see all of that and it's over-exaggerated, we're probably nearer a top. Also, I'm seeing more and more like Bitcoin signs around town, billboards. They're putting it on billboards. That's a contrarian sign. You have to pay attention to things like that, because if it's that obvious, then it's not a good opportunity, generally. Okay, good opportunities are not advertised. Some fake guru doesn't show up on YouTube with a good opportunity. They just happen, it works out for them sometimes. Okay, but when the times it doesn't work out for them, they don't talk about that. But there's a lot of this euphoria going on. Another note I want to mention, I spotted a business card the other day, okay? In a public location, a business card for a stock market website. Basically, come to this website and we're going to give you stock signals. A stock market website, a business card in a very public location. And someone left it there, obviously, for others to find. I'm like, man, that's not a good sign. When you find a business card like in this place, this is not it wasn't like a place where you expect investors or traders to be or anything like that. It was like a public place, like a supermarket, okay? And when it gets to like that point, we're probably nearer a top. That's usually a sign of euphoria. I remember many years ago, okay, during the NASDAQ bubble, all right, many years ago, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was none of this nonsense with people there was none of that, right? So people couldn't express themselves in that way. So you know what we used to have back then? If you went out to eat somewhere, you would overhear everyone would be talking about stocks. Everyone. Oh, this NASDAQ stock. Oh, that NASDAQ. It was everywhere. Okay? Because again, they couldn't share it on their phone. They didn't have there was no, back then, there were no cell phones, like the smartphones didn't exist yet. Okay? You had cell phones, but the smartphone was not in existence yet, and if they were, no one had a smartphone. Okay, so no one was like texting all day on their phones. Texting wasn't a thing yet, and so you used to overhear people. I think it's the same idea. The reason why you don't overhear people today is because they're too busy putting it on Twitter, or they're too busy showing how they're a millionaire on Instagram, that kind of stuff. Watch for those things. Okay, anyway, so that's Dash and my rant about market tops sentiment-wise. By the way, sentiment usually peaks before the market, okay? Just something to keep in mind. All right, so what else we got here? All right, so that was Dash. Let me see. Okay, okay, so I want to answer that. Mr. Plow, I bought a fraction of 1 BTC 2017 at 4,000, okay? I still don't see what is wrong about it. Well, right, so Mr. Plow, again, there's nothing wrong with it, okay? All right, so I went over that, though, so I'm not going to have to go out of that again. But thanks for mentioning. It's an interesting conversation, okay? Right. So people that buy on hype, they're doing someone a favor, right? People that want to get out, they're providing a means to get out and take a profit. So we need these people. We need people to open up their Robinhood account and buy mindlessly. That's what makes a market good, is that. Because if it's all pros if it's all people that understand what they're doing, like it's like a tight poker table, right? You ever go to if you play poker, there's something called a tight table where everyone at the table, they all know each other. It's the same guys all the time, and they all know each other's tricks. So no one makes any money, because what you need is someone to come in who has no idea what they're doing. They're drunk, and they're just going all in because they want to have fun. That's how you make money at a poker table, right? You need people like that. That's why people move to Vegas and to become a professional card player. Why? Because you have tourists who do just that. They go there, they want to have fun, they get drunk, they go to the poker table because they want to be cool, and they throw $1,000 out the window. Well, that $1,000, all the pros will be able, that's money for the pros to take, right? So that's why they go to Vegas, and they don't go to like some little poker room in New Jersey where everyone knows each other. Okay, anyway. So thanks for mentioning. All right, hey, so Farhat, let's see. Okay, from Uruguay, Bart, ¿Cómo estás? I'm improving my Spanish. Okay, can you look at Dogecoin? Sure. Okay, let's take a look. DOGE USDT. Let's take a look. Okay, so look, by the way, hold on. Before I continue with Dogecoin, let me just take a look at SHIB. Let me just take a look at, okay, still nonsense over, because this was like a pure nonsense hype coin, and, you know, relative to Dogecoin's cousin there. All right, so here's Dogecoin. And again, it's a similar situation, right? Like Bitcoin. Look, just remember that Bitcoin chart. It had like that, it was consolidating into that higher low inside of the consolidation. You got a similar situation here with Dogecoin. There's a higher low at 25 cents, and it's producing the next leg higher. Okay. Now, if you were willing, the buy signal was, what is this, I guess on Friday? That was the buy, that was the candle. So 26.76, you could basically say 27 cents would be the entry for something like that, okay? The risk would be defined at 25.84, so you figure 25 and a half or 25 cents even, you want to give it some room. You have support right here on Dogecoin, okay? Right there, that 25 cent area. So if you're willing to take the chance here, and you're looking to see if the next leg of this euphoric, you know, altcoin, Bitcoin season, holiday rally nonsense continues, which it's possible, you have to be willing to take that risk, and maybe this leg follows through. Again, this is another meme coin. It's a nonsense coin that basically gets driven on hype and people who have no idea what they're doing, right? That's why they buy into these things. So there's nothing wrong with participating in them as long as you understand what's driving them and what can go wrong. All right, that's really the key thing, and the risk is the main focus here. So at this point, I mean, the move is sort of on its way, so you have to take more risk. What's the closing price right here? 27, so 28, right? So you have to risk 3 cents, and you need to make at least 3 cents. What's this recent high here? 30. So even if it gets here to this recent high, even if it gets there, which is a pretty significant resistance because it reacted pretty significantly there, right? Even if it gets there, you haven't even made 1-to-1 yet. Because what is that price again? 30, I'm sorry, no, I'm wrong. I misread that. It's 34 cents. Okay, 34 cents. I'm sorry. So yeah, you can basically make 2-to-1. If you're risking 2 cents or 3 cents, and this thing can run from here to that high, which is possible if the nonsense, if the party continues, then yeah, you can justify your risk at that point. It's also possible that it breaks out. Okay, it's possible. Now, if something like that occurs, I mean, you do have some other resistance levels along the way. A good area to be cognizant of, if it can get there, would be this area right here, because that's your next major level. Right, your next resistance, which is, what is that, around 44 cents? So low 40s, right in that area right there. So there's some potential here. Just understand when the music stops, right, you need to be prepared. And the music could stop at any time. It's like musical chairs. So here, look, always take a look in these situations. Take a look at your weekly chart. Because while, you know, I won't use a weekly chart to put on trades, I will use a weekly chart to just get an idea of how ridiculously priced, overpriced, or underpriced we are. Okay, so in this situation, right, when we look at Dogecoin, we could see it's been at some much more ridiculous prices, right? It's got some potential. You're sort of in the middle of this range here, right, on the weekly. So it's possible maybe you test the range high, which would deliver a good swing trade at that point. Okay, it'd be worth the reward risk if you're willing to take that risk now, like I just described. If this market fails sometime this week or next week for whatever reason, because usually when failure comes along, there's usually some sort of catalyst behind it that no one expected, right? Then these weekly lows will get taken out. That's, if they get taken out, that's a bearish sign, and then I would be anticipating the range lows after such an occurrence or such information, gets onto the chart. Keep in mind, this game with charts is about letting the market prove things, okay? People always talk about predicting. Oh, use the chart to predict, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's really more about letting the market show you something, and then based on what it shows you, what is more likely for it to do next based on the structure that's in place, because the structure means something. It means something in terms of order flow. Okay, so that's Dogecoin. Let me see what else we got here. I'm just going through the questions. I hope you like. Let me know if you like the new format or if you don't. The new format being, I'm only going to analyze Bitcoin, and then if you guys want to hear those other markets that I would spend time on, you just let me know. Let me know if you like that or not. Okay, so because I don't see any questions about the S&P or anything. All right, so good, Michelle. Okay, DOT. Okay, X. Let's take a look at DOT. Dan wants to see DOT. So Polkadot. I know there's been lots of talk about this too. I see a lot of videos with DOT in the title. So DOT's got a good structure, right? I mean, it's a bullish structure, and look what it's done. It's broken this. This was a pretty significant resistance. It cleared it, right? That's definitely cleared. Now, since then, I mean, this thing is probably going to follow Ethereum's lead. It's got that similar pin bar situation like Ethereum, higher low pin bar, and on top of that, right? So you have a support right there. On top of that, it's got a strong candle in play right now, green candle. It's probably going to go for the higher high, okay? That's probably what it's going to do. Should you buy something like this right now? Understand the general location, all right? So back to that weekly chart. I mean, look at this, okay? Look at that. That's not sustainable. So when I see that kind of vertical nature, yeah, it may work out for a swing trade, but chances are this thing is likely to turn, right? The risk of retrace is very high at these levels. That's what people need to understand. If you want to play the game, sure, go for it. But if the market turns, you have to make adjustments. You cannot get stuck in hope mode. That's what's going to ruin a lot of people, is hope mode, right? So to travel, you're sad because people, whatever, but you can't save them from themselves, okay? Hope mode will ruin them when the market, when the season changes, right? When the market turns, when we get a bearish cycle. It's not there right now. So in that light, this thing can break and make the higher high. The question that you need to ask, or let the market answer for you if you take the risk, is, can you justify the risk? What's the risk here? If you buy this thing right now, 53.87, and the low here is 49, you're looking at a good, 5 points of risk? So you need to make 5 points if you take that trade. And if it gives you a hard time before then, you need to make adjustments. If anything, if you want to hold it with hope mode and blah, 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 at least have a stop loss, okay, at that 5 point area. If you get stopped out, you get stopped out. But that stop will be doing you a favor, because if this thing breaks, a lot of these things are probably going to get cut in half or something. I mean, there's no way to know. But you don't want to be caught at the mercy of the market. That's the main point. And the stop loss order for a swing trade will help you. Now, if you're long DOT, you didn't mention it, so I don't know if you're long this thing. If you're long DOT, hopefully you've locked in something at these levels, okay? And if you have, like Elizabeth mentioned with her Ethereum trade, you just let this ride, because there's nothing to do here, right? This is likely to make that higher high. Let it do its job. Let it make the higher high. See how far it goes before it gives you a hard time. I would suspect that if Bitcoin and Ethereum, like if Bitcoin fakes out and Ethereum can't go much further, that's probably going to see a turn in a lot of these things. Okay, until then, they're going to sit here. They're going to try to go higher. They're going to mess around. They're going to try to go higher and blah, blah, blah. All right, again, we're in Santa rally mode here, so something to keep in mind. Santa rally mode, it's not, I mean, I guess it's relatively new to this space because it's usually common to the stocks, and it's irrational. Irrational forces are what drive markets. It doesn't matter why. We can't sit there and say, but we have inflation, but we have this, we have that. It doesn't matter. If the market doesn't care about it, it doesn't matter. And then at some point, these problems that may exist, the market says, oh, wait a minute, we have these problems. And then they start selling. And you say, well, why are they reacting to it now? Because maybe some news report came out. Maybe some other thing forced everyone's attention on it. Oh, this is a problem now. Okay, but that's the irrational nature of the market. Don't use logic. That's what I always say. There's no room for logic in a random environment. Don't get caught up with logic. Just accept the price. If if they want to go higher, that's what they want to do. Okay, so I mean, look, I've gotten myself into trouble quite a few times shorting markets that have no business being shorted. I've done it with the NASDAQ a few times recently. And just historically, throughout all the years I've been doing this, I remember I could tell you 10 years ago, I was shorting the Dow when the Dow was not a short. So, and I was just doing it based on just some frivolous opinion. You can't do that, okay? So eventually these markets will cycle, like I said, and there could be a shorting opportunity. But until it proves that, there's no reason to try to pick that top. Okay, so that's DOT. Hey Kai, good to see you. All right, Alpha USDT. Let's take a look. Man, I'm talking. You know, I tried to save some time here. I'm still talking too much. All right, Alpha. Is that the right symbol? Do I have the right symbol here? Alpha AL. Hold on. ALPH. Alpha USDT. Let's take a look. Okay, so look, this one is not performing like the other ones, right? We see all those other coins, they have some nice bullish structures and candles taking place. While this one has a bullish structure, let's take a look. What are the levels? You have a higher low right there. You have another higher low. So I could see the Ethereum pattern here. Okay, it looks similar to that. These are all higher lows, right? These lines that I'm putting on the chart, those are all higher lows. So we haven't made any new highs yet here. It's trying, right? It's got this zone right here in front of it. So the resistance levels that you're dealing with, you have this one here. As you can see, look, it reacted to it. You have this one here. Those are your levels. So take note of those, first of all, okay? Now, these are historical levels. Their price has proven to react off of these levels previously. At this moment, you have the higher low. Can it make the higher high? Probably you're going to need Ethereum and Bitcoin to follow through. Otherwise, you're looking at a potential double top area. There's a lot of risk in this area right here. I mean, I would think at this time, with all the other activity going on, I would think that this thing should look like this right now, right? It should look like that. But it doesn't look like that, does it? So maybe it'll catch up or something. I don't know. It seems like a lot of these coins, compared to previously, the coins that I've been looking at, there seem to be a lot more today that are having a tendency to do their own thing. That was, not too long ago, none of these things really did their own thing. A lot of them just followed Bitcoin, but it looks like they're starting to break away. I'm noticing more and more, and that could be because there's a lot of specific hype on these specific coins, and there's chat rooms, and there's YouTube videos, and there's all kinds of stuff connected with driving that herd around that coin. So that's possible. That's my theory as to why some of them are breaking away. There's really no fundamental reasons. Okay, most of these coins, there's like 8,000 altcoins out there. Most of them are junk, right? Most of them are just highly speculative penny stocks. That's how I like to think of them. So anyway, as far as your alpha goes, you have that Ethereum situation. You can define your risk at $1.12. That's this low over here, right? That support low. If you're going to take this long, what price is this right now? $1.17. So you're looking at about 5 cents of risk, something like that. You need to make at least 5 cents to justify. What's this high? 124, and you're at 117. So you're just about 1-to-1 if you buy this thing right now, and if it pushes, it tests this resistance, which the structure favors that. Okay. Just like that Bitcoin structure favored that move that we see right now, the structure favors a test of this level. If you get that test, then you're at 1-to-1 reward risk at that point. And you should, in my opinion, you should start taking something off the table, because you have this resistance next. And either you're going to have to get some hype going in this thing or something to really get it through all that resistance, right? Because you better believe there are going to be a lot of people that bought at lower prices that will be very happy to take profits in this area, especially when you had this kind of move previously. I mean, look at the move here and look how far it went. Of course, Bitcoin had a similar move, right? There was a similar pullback in Bitcoin or whatever. So just something to keep in mind, right? So those are the levels on this thing, Alpha. Thanks for asking about it. Let's take a look at the next question here. GRT USDT from Michelle. Okay, GRT USDT. Let's take a look. So going back, all right, so look at this coin, right? Let's first look at the levels. The general structure, you have higher lows and higher highs. Again, this movement, this leg from this low, right? This low here to the high, this looks like it's trying to follow the same route as Ethereum. It looks similar, okay? Look at these resistance levels that you're facing. This is what all these fake gurus don't notice, right? They're too busy looking at their RSI and the RSI is going to take this thing, it's going to 50x by next week, right? That's what they're all saying, nonsense. I'm exaggerating, but you get my joke. Anyway, this is all your resistance area right here, all this area. So this thing is very possible that you get a double top, all right? And look what's going on at the moment. While the rest of the space is throwing a party, this thing is giving you a red candle off of a notable resistance area, okay? It's a doji, but it's a red candle basically, and what makes this important is the location. And as you can see here, people have sold here before. People also sold here. You see that? So you're fighting. There's a lot to fight through here, and it's giving you a hard time now. So I don't like this thing. As far as a long goes, I wouldn't go near this one. Okay, there are plenty of other ones that we just went over here that were better choices than this one. First of all, I would wait for a pullback to a support level. If anything, your first support on something like this is going to be, well, your first one is going to be around there, and your second one is going to be around this area here. Okay, those are your supports. So you can even give it the range, because sometimes these things are messy and they don't just turn out a precise level. So in that area right there, what is that? The low of that is 76 cents, and the high of that is like 90 cents. So that's your support zone. If price can retest that zone, Michelle, that's probably a more appropriate place for whether it's a swing trade you're interested in, or even possibly a position trade, because that's a nice little pullback there, right? That's like 50% of this recent movement. So those are your higher probability locations, not right now, especially in light of what else is, everything else that's going on in the world. This thing should be doing much better. Okay, so don't get caught in this one. This one is not acting, it's acting relatively weak. And just to give you some more perspective, right? Oh, check out that 1 week chart. Now look at this thing. So this thing used to be, obviously this was a big hype thing going on here. I mean, look at these highs, right? Look at that. It's nonsense. Look how it's trying to come back since then, right? It found some support basically going back about halfway, right? 50% of the move, and it's nowhere near these highs, right? Nowhere near. Bitcoin and Ethereum are making all-time highs. This thing is not even close. A lot of coins are in this type of situation. Make sure that you look at your weekly chart, especially if you're thinking in a larger time frame, like you're planning to hold for more than a swing trade. Check that weekly chart, because if Bitcoin and Ethereum are on their all-time highs, and this goes too for the NASDAQ and S&P, they're at their all-time highs, and this thing is not even close, then they're relatively weak. So when Bitcoin has its real pullback at some point, it may be a month from now, it may be 2 months, these things are all in a position to give back a lot, because they're nowhere near their highs. They're not really strong. Okay, it's just people speculating and chasing these things, hoping that they're going to play catch up. Not a good game to play. As far as like the altcoin season nonsense and all that stuff, you want to wait the next cycle when all this stuff pulls back. It's not going to be like a one-day thing. please write this like in your notes or something. It's not going to be a one-day thing. If we go into that bear market cycle, it could be a few months. It could be 6 months. And it's not all like, okay, one candle pulls all the way back to the bottom and then sits at the bottom for 6 months. It will work its way lower for 6 months, which means there's going to be all these fake buying opportunities that's going to get everyone excited and everyone long. And then they're all going to have to bang it out, or they're going to just take a larger loss, or blah, 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 when the thing makes the lower low, right? That's what will happen. And then it will find some sort of, stability. I mean, just look back, right? Look at this. If we just go to the weekly chart, I'm going to just show you the example on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's a good example. If we just go back and we take a look at the weekly chart, okay? Look at these periods, right? Before these major moves here. Okay, look, beginning of the year, before the beginning of the year, there was this period. You see that period? What was it, 2020? I mean, it was just not, it wasn't as exciting as it is now. So that's what you're looking for. Even when we had this pullback in this part of the earlier this year, right? What was this, April, May, June, this area right here? It wasn't even for long. This was what, maybe a couple of months, right? Maybe about 2 weeks. I mean, sorry, 2 months worth, something like that. And then everything went nuts, right? So you just have to keep an eye. These are the periods when you get these consolidation periods, these type of things on a weekly chart, and they're near lows. That's really where you want to be thinking long-term accumulation, not where we are now, okay? And that goes for all those altcoins. So Bitcoin's at these all-time highs or whatever, just about to break all-time highs. Your altcoin should be doing something similar, okay? Something similar. So thanks for asking. I hope that makes sense. Okay, Bart, can you take a look at FTMB? Okay, I took a trade at 268. Okay, I want to know if the structure favors more. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look. All right. Is that a USD or USDT? Okay, no, it's USD. Okay, so now look at this. I think someone's brought this up. I remember looking at this chart. It's a good-looking chart. I can't argue with that. All right, it's a bullish-looking chart. You have a high or low right here. So you did well. You bought it at 268. You said this thing right now is at 310. Okay, so basically you bought in this area here, high. So nice. That was a nice purchase. So and you took something off the table. Great. You did everything right. So you're asking now, should you what should you do? Well, the structure favors a higher high. There's a higher low in place. It's acting, it looks like it's following along with Bitcoin. You're going to test these highs here. There's no bearish pin bar. You don't even have a bearish inside bar. You have nothing here but a strong green close at the moment, right? When it closes. So I would say chart looks like this, let it run. If you have some, let it run. Nothing to do. Probably Ethereum would probably be a good guide, or Bitcoin. When they start to turn, that's probably when you'll see this thing have a hard time. So let this thing run, okay? What you don't want to see, Bart, what you don't want to see is a bearish pin bar develop in this area, just like it developed back here. You don't want to see that in this area. Okay, so when you see that, that should be a prompt for adjustment. Or if you get some nasty red candle, right, and you decide to hold it because you want to give it a chance, and it breaks this support here, you don't want to see that either. That would be establishing a double top at that point, okay? So those are the things you don't want to see. Otherwise, let the market work for you. Okay, so good trade. Thanks for sharing. Hey, Sean, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Shorts. Always have shorts from. I was worried. I'm like, I don't see shorts in here. Ah, shorts from Romania. Okay, I feel better now. An international man of mystery. You never know what part of the world he's going to be joining us from. All right, Schwartz. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Okay, let me see what else we have. What does Schwartz say here? Okay, those from are pumping alts, and so it's BitBoy, just a bunch of wow, Schwartz getting angry. But after that, so Schwartz, hold on, yeah. So there is all that hype stuff. I mean, look, YouTube allows it, right? I mean, there's nothing to stop them. There's nothing to regulate them from doing that. They can say whatever they want. They could pump it as much as they want, and if people are not educated enough or whatever to understand what's going on, and they just buy into the mindless greed. That's the nature of irrational, euphoria, or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, thanks for mentioning. Schwartz. Okay, Kim from Argentina. ¿Cómo estás? They probably don't say it that way over there, but okay. ATVI was a pin bar buy signal. Okay, let's take a look. Is that Activision? ATVI. Oh, wow. All right, yeah. So here's the thing. Kim, when you see these situations, right, like a lot of stocks, this is basically, company reports have been coming out over these few weeks. So you're going to see, people have been asking me about a lot of stocks, right, with situations that look like this, giant gap. So obviously the report was not favorable, okay, whatever they said. And when you see those situations, Kim, the best thing to do in these situations after such a report is don't even bother with this thing until it gives you some form of stability. So now your question here about the pin bar. She says, was the pin bar a buy signal after this gap? Well, theoretically, yeah, sure. This is a bullish pin bar off of a, let's see, if there's support in that area there. Let's go back and see. Nope, not there. Let's go back further. How about over here? So we can argue that there is some support. We can argue if we go really far back, we can argue. But and that is a bullish pin bar, and it took out the high of the pin bar. But what makes these signals, what gives them any value, is not the pin bar itself, because a pin bar can appear randomly. It's the location, right? In the context of the situation, you have this gigantic gap in front of you here. So, or I should say right behind you here. So, like I said, even if you get a buy signal after such a gap, it's a bad idea, because this type of gap is likely to act as a support or resistance level. In this case, a resistance level. On top of that, inside that gap, you have resistance right in here. So, I mean, there's a little room to run, but I would not touch this thing with that type of negative situation going on. Now, until it stabilizes. Now, there's a couple of ways you can go about this. All right. Obviously, right now, there's nothing to do. I wouldn't go near this. But if you want to be more aggressive, because now you may have the beginning of a bearish structure here. You may have bearish momentum if this follows through. So this is why I'm calling this aggressive, because you're going against that. All right. You can wait for a double bottom to appear in this area again over the following week or whatever. All right, possibly a higher low. Maybe you get one of those during this week. Now, that type of trade, if you get that situation, right? Let's say you get a bullish inside bar over here or a pin bar, and it goes above the high and you take that long, okay? It's aggressive because you're going against this gap resistance. It's possible that this thing changes its tune and changes its structure after you get in. It's possible, but I think the probability is working against you in that situation. So the more conservative thing to do. Now, again, if you want to be aggressive, it's up to you. But if you want to be more conservative, the thing to do would be to wait for all that to occur. Let it form its double bottom. Let it fool around a bit. Let it take out a resistance level. Right now, you're looking at 68.74. That's the resistance level that it established after the gap. Let it do that first. That can take a couple of weeks, right? You want to see a candle close above like that. Once it does something like that, then you say, okay, you can either try to buy that breakout if you want to be aggressive with that, or you let it break out first and then let it pull back again. And at that point, you're probably going to have some level here in the middle, and you can get a higher low off of something like that. It's a much more, I should say, the structure would be much more in your favor, that the support holds and it starts to work its way higher at that point. What I just described can take weeks to develop. So that's what you should watch for, Kim, on something like this. Again, there are a lot of stocks that are in this situation where they have this nasty gap because of a report that obviously the market wasn't too happy about. Okay, so that's why it's best to stay away from these until they stabilize. And I just described the stabilizing situation. Okay, does that make sense? So thanks for asking. Let me see what else we got here. Okay, PLG. Who? Hey, who? That's funny. All right, so PLG, Platinum Group. Is this correct, or is this a coin? Let me see. Oh, it's possibly a... Let me know if it's a coin, because I don't want to go over the wrong stock for 3 hours. Is PLG a coin or is PLG a stock? Because the stock is Platinum Group. Okay, that's why I always say in the beginning of the stream, make sure you put USD after it if it's a coin, because I'll talk about the wrong thing for 3 hours. All right, I'm going to assume that this is a coin, but maybe I'm wrong. Let me see. Is PLG a stock or a coin? What do you want to see? All right, so you put it in the chat and I'll get back to it. Travel, thanks for your contribution. Okay, no problem. Well, again, Travel, I understand your situation. Trust me, I understand the situation, but I've learned over time that the market, no matter what we think or feel or what's going on in the world, because there are a lot of mindless people out there that just react to things, and that's just the way it is, right? So you just have to accept it, right? And not question it, and you're more likely than not be on the side of the market, what the market wants to do. And when it turns, right? And that's the best way to go about it. Otherwise, really what you're doing is you're fighting opinions and you're fighting yourself. And I lost a lot of money doing that. So anyway, all right. Jesse from Poughkeepsie. I can't even say it anymore. LRC USD. Let's take a look. Okay, LRC USD. Oh man, Jesse, where do you find these? Why don't you tell us about these before the move, Jesse? On Coinbase. Oh man, that's a nice move. Okay, so, well, thanks for bringing it up. I like to see these because, again, this is the herd mentality. When you see charts that do this and they look spectacular, right? You're like, oh man, if I bought that, and then you start thinking about all the money. Oh, if I had invested $1,000, it would have been $15,000, and I would have bought this with it, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's quite a move there. Obviously news, that looks like news to me. All right, and what I'm doing here is I'm highlighting these levels where there was some kind of price reactions, right? You had this over here. So in a situation like this, I mean, this thing's up 44%. There's a lot of this nonsense going on. Don't get lured into these. When you see something like this, great for the radar, put it on your radar. As far as you know what I'm going to say, would not be interested in buying this now. If you happen to have some, Jesse, great place to be getting out, locking in some profit. You don't have to unload your whole position, see if it wants to pay you some more, because there's really no reason to sell. But these are horrible prices to buy, okay? How much is this thing? $2.16. I'm sure if I Google this or check it on YouTube, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of hype videos on how I'm going to be a millionaire by next week if I just buy, a couple of $1,000s worth of this thing. So anyway, yeah, that's another contrarian sign, by the way, millionaire titles. See how many of them you can count. All right, so in this situation, look for support levels. Your next support right now is this area here, which is $1.50, $1.49. That's your support. So if price can retest the area, a lot of times I've seen with these stupid charts, when they get stupid like this, and speaking of stupid, Travel, this is stupid. So when you see this, a lot of times you get like a red candle that'll form here, and you'll see like a pin, you'll see like a tail form right off of this support. So in those type of situations, I mean, you have to be sitting there watching this thing all day to see if you want to try to catch something like that, because it'll touch it for like a second and then turn, and you have to make all your adjustments right there. It's not an easy game to play, but that's your support level. If you want to wait for price to test the area and give you a bullish pin bar or an inside bar, that would be the more reasonable thing to do if you want to wait for that. Otherwise, if it clears this support, because that's always possible too. That's why it's so important to wait for candles to close, because if this is all nonsense and hype, you can get a red candle that does something like that, right? And takes out the whole thing. So you don't want to get caught in that. If it takes out, if you get a pronounced red candle, then your support after 150 is 108, right? It's this area right there. So those are your levels in advance that you should be prepared for. Will it go there? Who knows? Maybe. Okay? If it doesn't go there, then the only thing you could do in this situation is wait for it to consolidate. If it doesn't want to test any of those levels, perhaps you get a consolidation somewhere in here, right? Kind of like things like, SHIB was doing that. Here, let me just show you real quick. Like maybe you get one of these situations, right? Notice like on SHIB, see how you get like this long tail type of candle, the red one, you see that? and then you see how it's fooling around in this support area. Like you want to wait for something like that, but you notice it never went back here yet. So if it starts to give you some sort of stability and you start to see some common prices in here, that's where you have to start figuring out, how you want to take risk. Now, like for example, people with SHIB, just to give you an example of how this can go, because just because you get a buy signal doesn't mean it's going to go back to the moon. When I saw this, I've been watching this because I watched some guys hype this one, right? I watched this thing's going to go up 25,000% and all this other nonsense. You're going to be a millionaire, you're going to be a billionaire, blah, 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 right? When this green candle formed, I saw a bunch of hype on this thing. Okay, it's gonna triple now. It's gonna go to a cent. Blah 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 blah. And as you can see, it turned and has not gone there. Right? You see that? People that took that type of trade should be stopped out. And then what happens? You get another try. Okay, another try. And as you can see, that's not following through either. So my point is this. You may get these trying green candles, but don't expect them to do this, okay? Just because you see them previously, especially with the magnitude of hype. Now, so if your coin, the one you just mentioned there, what was it? I forgot the letters. The coin that you just mentioned. I'm just going back on the chat here. Sorry, LRC. If it does something like that, that's how you need to be prepared to work with it, okay? Just going back to LRC. So if it starts to pull back and do all that kind of nonsense, be prepared for that if you're looking for a swing trade. If you're looking for something longer term, then, just have your target supports, the levels that you'd want to get in, have them known in advance. Maybe you want to put some limit orders there in advance. The only way I would suggest something like that is if it's a long term and you're going to take small bites. You can't really use stop loss orders in that situation. It's the small size that will protect you if the thing gets hammered. Okay? You want to play that game and try to average into it, but I warn you, these are highly speculative, as you know. So if you're going to play that game, I think it's wise to do it with a smaller allocation. Like let's say you want to just invest $1,000 into this, right? You break that $1,000 up into 10 $100 purchases, and then you play with it that way. So and you don't go more than $1,000. So if the thing really gets hammered, the most you're going to lose is $1,000, right, over the long term, because that's all you're going to allocate to it. That's the idea I would work with if you're trying to play the bigger picture. I don't like these things for bigger picture. I think there's too much euphoria and too much hype, and this is not a bigger picture time for these things. Everyone's saying 1,000x, 50x, 100x, you're going to be a millionaire. When you see stuff like that, the party is pretty much, I say it's over, even though there may be another few weeks, there may be a couple more, maybe a couple of months of whatever. But all these people that are buying now, they're going to get stuck, and they're going to be banging it out when, I explained before. So these are not opportunistic levels for those type of trades or investments. Another one, number two, keep in mind, and I said this before, true opportunities are not obvious. They're not advertised. You're not going to see one on a billboard. You're not going to see one on some YouTube video. When Bitcoin came out, 2009, there were no YouTube videos about Bitcoin, okay, and how you're going to be a millionaire in a few years if you buy a ton of it now for, sub $1 or whatever it was, okay? There were no videos about Ethereum making you a millionaire. There was none of that. So true opportunities are not obvious. Keep that in mind. So when you see something like this, people on their Robinhood account, this one looks like a strong one. I'm going to buy this one. The party's over here. If you bought lower because whatever you knew about it as an insider, hey, you had the advantage. This is the time to unload onto all those Robinhood people, okay? That's why I'm not really interested in these things as long-term investments. At this time, I think it's a very, I should say, high-risk time. Okay, so anyway, thanks for asking. Okay, Kai, want to see it blow off top? Right, and again, Kai, it may take some time, right? That's why patience is so important in this game. Most of the time, I'll tell you, you're better off doing nothing than taking action, because taking action, too much action doesn't go anywhere. And we see this bias. We look all around. We see all these people on YouTube. They're all making millions and millions and millions of dollars. Everyone has a Lamborghini. Lamborghinis, they're ruining their brand because everyone can rent a Lamborghini and everyone has one. You know, it's like, so you don't get fooled by all that stuff. Most of that's fake. You know what really gets me is when I see these Forex traders claiming to, oh, yo, I make a lot of money. I have a big house and look at my Lamborghini. I trade Forex. I'm a Forex day trader. Do you realize that Forex is probably the worst instrument to day trade? No one makes money in Forex. All the traders that I know, I don't know lots of traders, but the ones that I know that make money don't trade Forex. They don't day trade Forex, okay? The most profitable ones that I know are in stocks and futures and options. No Forex. So that's a joke. That really makes me laugh. Oh, I trade Forex. Anyway, yeah, so just wanted to throw that in there. So Nick, I saw you on TradingView, and that's how, oh, Nick, cool. Nick, thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you saw me on TradingView. The herd only got bigger. So if a big person tweets about something, the herd runs to it. Sure, Nick, and especially if you're someone that commands, 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, right? You could definitely think about the promoter. Think about that person. They can basically pick some garbage coin, right, that maybe has a lower float or something, and they can buy a ton of it and then start hyping it and pump it themselves. I mean, that's what it's getting to. And I think I haven't heard too much talk about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are some of these coins, they're using their marketing budgets to pay some of these big names to pump the coin or to push that coin because they know that that's how it's going to work, right? So they'll come to you and say, hey, listen, I'll give you, I'll give you this many coins. Pump the coin. And oh yeah, look, SHIB is going to go up 10 billion%. Buy it. And then all the people start buying it, and then they, I've seen that type of business model in other businesses, but I haven't heard too many people talking about it in this yet. Maybe I haven't looked in the right places, but I'm sure that's what's going on. Anyway, all right. So keep that in mind. Marketing budgets, okay? Marketing budgets. That's what makes a lot of these coins successful, is how well they market the coin. All right. So, all right. Oh, by the way, hold on, real quick. Let me go to this one real quick. Hold on, and I'll get to your question. I know I'm getting off track here. Cardano, right? I've been watching. I saw some live stream. I didn't watch the stream, but I saw some stuff about Cardano. How you're going to be a millionaire on the Cardano blockchain because they're going to make video games. I don't know, something like that. There were 10,000 live viewers on that stream. 10,000. Okay, I can't even get 50 people in mine. But anyway, I was just curious to see how this thing is doing. Now look at this. Just to give you an example of how that kind of hype, right? So people are going to buy into it. Oh yeah, I watched that video and they said Cardano is going to blah, blah, blah. Oh look, green candle. I'm going to buy Cardano. Now, if you realize, yes, it's a green candle, but you're right in the middle of this range. So first of all, this is a highly random location. Second, anything can happen here. And Bitcoin, if they pull back, this thing has so much possibility of pulling back. And like, this is relatively weak. Why would anyone buy this? Right? That's what hype will do. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. This right here, if I look at a coin like this and I see this, I would say that there's no progress here. There's nothing going on here. We haven't taken out the range high. We're in the middle of the range, which means nothing. This thing can turn right around and go back to the low of the range. Okay, now like LRC, as you can see, that thing was pushing highs, right? Some of these other coins we looked at were pushing highs. Those are things that are making progress. Not this, not yet. Maybe it breaks out at some point. Maybe you want to take that risk now, but I have very little faith in these things, especially something like Cardano that's so overhyped. Anyway, okay, thanks, Nick. Love how you compare this to casino. Well, Nick, there's a reason why I do that. It's true. This can easily appeal to like a gambling type of mentality very easily. A lot of, forever, Wall Street would hide behind this pretense, this academic pretense, I like to call it, where I'm smarter than you. you come to here and I'll invest your money for you because I'm smarter than you. People always thought like brokers and floor traders were like smarter, or they had the inside track on things, right? And blah, blah, blah. They were just, well, the brokers that you call on the phone are just salespeople. They knew nothing about markets, nothing, except the next rumor and what they had to push on people. I worked for Forex.com. I was in sales. I was not a trader over there. The guys on the trade desk at Forex.com, and this was a long time ago, you know what their job was? People think, oh, trader at the trade desk at Forex.com. What an amazing job he must have. No. His job was, there was a group of them, they had two jobs. One was to fill large orders, right? If a large player called and they wanted blah, 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 okay, you do it over the phone. The guy will fill your order for you over the phone. The other job, the other function was to margin people out of their positions if they went over their margin requirements. Because back then, I guess the algos weren't complex enough to handle that for their entire portfolio of whatever. So they had a person do it, okay? And that was it. They didn't speculate. They weren't betting on direction. If you talked to them and asked them about, they didn't know nothing about like technical analysis. I mean, this guy's a trader on the trade desk. I don't understand. People have this idea that they were no. So you have to understand, this is like a casino. Okay, there is something to investing, which is a different story, but I'm not going to get into that here. Okay. Anyway, I'm more short-term oriented. But thanks for mentioning. All right, Alex. Do you think 64K is now a new support? So on Bitcoin, yeah, well, I think the support is the 60K area, right? I think it's this area right here. Here, I'll draw that line again. I think that's where the support is, 60K. That's just below the range there. It's like sort of like the midpoint, but slightly lower. That's the level, and then you have like this 57K area, 59K area. Those are the supports. That's it. All right, so if that's broken, then this party is probably over for now. But as you can see, we're nowhere near those levels. We don't even have a red candle. We don't even have a red inside bar. It looks like it's going to go for the higher high. Now, again, this is going to suck in a lot of people. They're all going to buy the breakout. You're going to see something like that. Does it follow through or not is a different story. If they put some news behind this thing, right, because that's what usually gets these things going. There's some kind of catalyst behind it. It's possible you can see 70K. It's possible. If there's no fake out, right? So just something to keep in mind. If you missed it, don't worry. If you missed it, don't feel bad, don't feel sad, don't feel like you're missing out, don't be frustrated, because there will come a point where it will test the support. Markets cycle. You may have to wait a month, okay? And that support may not be 40K. That support may be 70K. Because right now, 67K is a resistance. So if it breaks that resistance, that area, 67K to 65K, that's going to become a support. That may be the support you have to buy at that time. But we'll only know at that time because the market will have to prove that. Okay? So anyway, my point is don't have a feeling about it. Just let the market do its thing and focus on the risk. Focus on what you can't see. There's nothing on this chart. There's nothing on here that says risk. Risk equals blah, blah, blah. People don't see that. People don't think of that. But your risk is high here. People don't realize that there may be a ton of sell orders sitting up here. You can't see them. Okay? There may be very large players very happy to unload at that level. You can't see them. You don't know who's selling up there. So, just be patient and think about what you can't see, because charts don't show us everything. All right. So, Elias. Okay, no problem. CVX stock. All right, I know I'm a little so I'm very talkative today. I'm way too talky. Too much talk. Okay, let's see what else we got. Chevron. Okay, so Chevron. This is interesting. Thanks for bringing this one up. This is obviously energy stock, right? So look at this. Recently broke out. Look at the failure that's occurring right now. The market's closed. You have this Doge type situation. Tried to break out. Why hasn't this candle closed solid green? Okay, so this is a possible fake out developing here in Chevron. I would not buy this. All right, your support on something like this is going to be right now. Your support is here, which is what, basically 112, basically, and this thing's at 115. It's not too far away. It's a couple of points, but that's where your support is. Now, on something like Chevron, this is what you need to watch for. I mean, what a move recently, right? But check out oil. don't lose sight of oil. Look, oil, nice close. What is that? 82.20, 82.23 is the. I guess it's still open, but it closes like that. Look at the higher low established. Okay, look at that. Oil refuses to pull back. It just refuses. And there may be geopolitical reasons, whatever the reasons. I don't question them. Is oil too high? I don't know. I don't question it. It wants to establish a higher low. I would anticipate the higher high. So keep an eye on oil. If oil breaks that high, those stocks like Chevron, they should be supported by something like this, right? What's another one? MPC. I mean, look, they're all probably going to show us a similar picture. ExxonMobil, right? Look at that. Looks just like Chevron, okay? Looks very similar. So they're not going to move one-to-one with oil, but just keep that in mind. All right, these things are clearly strong. I would look for a pullback, okay, pullbacks on these things. Now notice, just going back a couple of months, look at the pullback on something like this thing. Look how far it pulled back. Look how long you had to wait before this opportunity came along, okay? And this breakout came along, which was, beginning of October there. So keep that in mind. You're buying now potential highs. This thing can turn. Let this thing consolidate a bit, right? Find a level. Let's see where the next level is. The next real support after that little minor one on something like this would be probably around here, which is what? $60, okay? This thing right now is at $65. So you should probably, put this on your radar, set up your little thing so that when it gets to $60, you get a notification or something, and hey, that's when you start watching it, not here, okay? These are just highly risky prices. Even though oil is generally strong, you want to wait for a support. And if it breaks out and breaks higher, this current level, like Bitcoin, like I showed you with Bitcoin, this current level may become a support that you can consider. Now, the other thing you have to keep in mind is if you're thinking swing trade or position trade, these stocks, let me go back to CVX, these stocks are usually good for both, but you have to know what you're getting into before you do it, right? Like if you want to do a position trade, it's going to be handled differently than a swing trade. All right, just something to keep in mind. You need to really keep an eye on the bigger picture. Also, when you're dealing with these, just always take a look at that weekly chart. I mean, look at this. Look at that. Look at where you're going. This is the other thing. I mean, look what you're buying into. So what do you think the chances are that this thing is just going to continue on this beautiful rally and make you a millionaire by tomorrow? I mean, what do you think the chances are? Not very good. Okay, I certainly wouldn't want to be piling in at these levels. These are great levels to sell, though. These are great levels to lock in profits. Someone's doing that. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. All right, so that's why it's so important to know if you want to get into a swing trade or a position trade. All right, so I hope you found that helpful. But right now, your minor support, is like that 112 area. So that would probably be more appropriate for a swing trade. All right. Oh, so I'm getting some feedback here on the format. So Elizabeth, like the new format. Okay. Oh, cool. All right, good. All right, so yeah, I mean, again, the whole idea of the new format is to spend more time on your questions. So I would guess that people would probably prefer that more. And if you don't want to hear about S&P and NASDAQ and all that stuff, fine. I want to show you charts that you're interested in. Okay, and if I'm going to spend the time, I want to spend time on charts that you're interested in. Okay, Mr. Plow. I also like your view on the dollar. All right, well, Mr. Plow, so here's the thing. If you want, just tell me, put in dollar index, okay? And I'll check out the dollar. I'm just going to take away those markets because people don't really want to hear about them. But if you want to hear about one, just put it in the chat. I'll be very happy to talk about the dollar or the S&P or gold or whatever because I can talk about those markets for the entire day. Okay, so anyway. Okay, so I went over Cardano. See that? I beat you to it. I went over Cardano. Kim, I like poker. It is profitable because bad players are often randomly. Right. Well, if you want just an interesting correlation with poker. See, I think poker is a very interesting game because of its risk management similarities to timing markets. Now, the game, obviously, timing a market and poker are very different vehicles. You can't invest in poker, right? Poker can't continue to pay you while you're sleeping. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to being in the financial market that poker cannot give you. But when it comes to managing risk, the parallels are very similar. And that's why I think poker is a great way to develop those decision-making skills because poker is highly random, right? But there's a way, right? What a poker skill And this is what you want to, how you want to kind of develop your market timing skill. A poker skill, a skilled player puts a player on a hand. So if you have a couple of people in the hand with you, you have 2 cards in your hand, they have some cards in their hand, and there's some cards on the table. Okay, and based on how they're betting, based on some other tells, and based on how they've betted previously, you're always trying to estimate what they might have in their hand. And based on that, that's going to shape how you're going to bet, right? Or take a loss, right? Or you're going to fold, you're going to raise, or you're going to call, whatever. Or maybe you go all in, right? But what's going to help you make that decision are a number of factors. And an important factor is how the other people are betting. Now, they can trick you and they can bluff you, right? And make you think that they have cards that they don't have. So we see that all the time. But that's where it's not like the market. My point is, with the market, because we can't see the reality of the market, we can't see the real order flow and who's behind those orders, we have to basically put like a probability on the chart, almost like putting a hand on a player. You're saying, well, I think this chart, I think the price is likely to do this based on this and this and this, right? And if this occurs, then it cancels out my idea. It's kind of like the same idea, if that makes sense, okay? So that's what I do. I put loose probabilities. I call them loose because I can't put a hard probability. I can't come up with a calculator and say, look, I have a precise probability of 98% that it's going to do this. You know, some of these morons on YouTube actually do that. Oh, there's a 70% chance that Bitcoin's going to do this. You can't really say that. There's no way to actually calculate something like that. I saw one guy try to do something which was interesting but flawed. So keep it like that, okay? Anyway, all right, before I rant on that forever. I was supposed to make this stream shorter. It's longer. All right, let me see, where am I here? So I went over that. Okay, gold. Try to pick up. Okay, gold. XAUUSD. Now look, gold is getting out of hand here, okay? In fact, I've been seeing gold ads popping up on my on like my browser when I get browser-based ads. I've been seeing ads to buy gold bars. Uh-oh, here we go. Okay, but look where gold is. So gold recently has this interesting move. Now, whenever I look at gold, the first thing I check is the dollar. This is why this is so important, okay? Look at the dollar index. This is not bearish. This is not a bearish chart. All right, I see a higher low established here. We don't have any heavy economic news this week, blah, blah, blah. No NFP, no FOMC. The dollar recently tried to break these highs, and it's sitting around near the highs. That's a consolidation, higher low. So we know what that means to me. That means gold is probably not going to go very far. Gold is at a resistance level. So it's going to suck in all the opinionated, gold's going to 2,000, here it goes. There's no gold in Fort Knox. The government's printing money forever, blah, 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 blah. Right, gold's at a resistance, okay? Not only is gold at a resistance, but the dollar is still strong. When the dollar breaks its supports, when the dollar breaks, okay, I will be more confident with gold. So, I mean, can you swing trade something like this? You can, right? All opinions aside, you can swing trade something, could try, but this is certainly not the level to do it, right? I wouldn't be buying gold on this breakout. No way. I'd be expecting a fake out, possibly. That's what I'd be looking for, just based on the level. And if we get a support, maybe we get a support back here or something, but I really want to see something a little more convincing out of the dollar, because as long as that dollar stays generally strong, I don't know where gold thinks it's going, you know, because the dollar will put pressure on this again. So just something to keep in mind. You know, maybe for a smaller time frame if you're trying to work with that, but I'm not going to get into that here. All right, so thanks for asking about gold. Farhat, EOS, okay, EOS, USDT. Let's take a look. All right, so this looks kind of like gold, right? I mean, look at this. So you got a resistance right there. You have a support area right here. It's not bad looking. You have the higher low. It looks like it's following Ethereum. A lot of these look like they're following Ethereum. $4.22 is your range low. You're going for the breakout. It's going for the breakout now. Are you willing to take the risk that it follows through? If it can follow through, right? Your first resistance, let's see where that is. That's about here. Your first resistance is right about there, okay? So you have all this room. If it can clear that and reach that first resistance, that's around, what, 570? and you'd have to buy this thing at basically 480. So you're looking at what, 90 cents, not potential profit of 90 cents, and you have to risk, what is this low over here? The low is $4.41. So about, all right, so that's 2 to 1, about, right? 2 to 1 reward risk. If you bought the breakout, you're basically risking about, what, 80 to 90 cents, because you would get stopped out if it went below this low. So that's probably going to be around 90 cents by the time you buy the breakout, maybe a little bit more. And you need to get up to here, okay, to justify that. The structure at the moment, you have a higher low. It supports that. This is also a broader higher low over here. But the thing is, this thing can get caught in all of this possible resistance. It's failed a few times. And you have to keep in mind that Bitcoin and Ethereum are on their highs. And if they flounder or if they break, if they fail, these things are all going to be in vulnerable locations. So you want to go for, I don't want to discourage people from going for some of these breakouts. All right? So, I mean, look at this thing. You got some room to play with here on the weekly chart. It's in a consolidation, right? You have to be willing to make the adjustment if things don't go the right way. That's what's going to help you succeed with these. Some of them are going to break out and they're going to have a nice move. And if you know how to let that play out and just not get in its way, okay. The skill really comes in is when they start to give you a hard time. Okay, it gets up to here, it tries to break out, and next thing you know, you get a red candle and blah, blah, blah. That's where you have to be disciplined enough to take the loss. Okay, and it's a small loss, maybe it's a small gain, but it really requires adjustment. Maybe you raise your stop, but you really need to be on top of your risk, okay, in those situations. But generally, I see the higher low, I would expect a higher high. Just how far, who knows, okay? Bart, okay, I took that trade because someone mentioned on your oh, cool. See, I'm glad. See, people make money in my stream. Thanks. And I'm not even asking. I don't know some of these guys. There was one guy, he was shaming people. He was saying, you can give me 1 Ethereum, and if you complain about that, then you must be poor. I mean, it's only 1 Ethereum. It's $5,000. I'm like, is this guy for real? Anyway, I actually saw that. Okay, anyway. So cool, Bart. Okay, Kai, if you have time, maybe Euro Franc looks bear. Okay, I'll take a look at Euro Franc. You have the best 26 investors watching. Yeah, that's right. Well, I know my followers are committed, and they're much wiser, I think, than the herd, because you guys are here. All right, so let's see. People who appreciate me usually have a better. They're a little more reasonable, I think. All right, and I'm not just saying that because it's me. All right, Euro Franc. So you're saying about Euro Franc looks bearish to me, which is worrying as I am in the Eurozone. Okay. So Euro against Franc. Well, it's a cross pair. As far as trading, I'm not a big fan of trading these cross pairs, but let's take a look at the levels that you're dealing with, okay? These are your levels right here. It broke some supports, and the Euro has been strange, and same with the pound. These have been strange. Now here's the thing. You have a double bottom that's basically a little mini double bottom there. It's in play right now. You have this strong candle. If it takes out this resistance high of what is that, 1.05, takes that out, it's not conforming to the structure, okay? Let's take a look at a weekly chart real quick, because sometimes with these things, you get a better perspective. Because a lot of these things are not really in a trend. A lot of them are in these giant consolidations. And look, you can sort of argue that this one's not exactly in a trend either. Look where it's at. All right, that's basically a very large magnitude range low, and it's finding buying activity there. I mean, look at that candle. So this saying it looks bearish, but only the recent activity is bearish. If this thing turns and breaks that resistance, you could possibly test the midpoint of that range, which is, what is that, 107? So it's probably a couple hundred pips higher there. So just something to keep in mind on something like that, right? Don't get sucked in by just the recent price action. Now, if you're taking smaller time frame trades, sure, I can understand. But if you're looking at the bigger picture, this is your resistance area, that 107, And that's, if this thing is going to be a short, that would be the place to be looking, not here. If anything, this is a super aggressive long, if anything. Now keep in mind the euro is going to have to go higher than the franc faster, right? And the euro has been a pain. I mean, look at the euro real quick. I've been watching the euro. I mean, look at this thing. Euro's not exactly in a hurry to go lower either. It's been trying, but look at this mess. It tries to go lower, pops up, tries to go lower, pops up. It's a mess, okay? And that's probably going to require the dollar to be more decisive. And the dollar is kind of stuck, as you saw, but generally strong. So one of them is going to have to give. They can't just both go in the same direction, all right? So thanks for mentioning Euro Franc. Okay, Kai, I know he says he gets weekly approached by projects to shill them for money, and that in a bearish sentiment periods, bullish videos get no views. That's interesting, Kai. That's interesting because, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I haven't seen any specific things mentioned about people getting paid, but understand that what makes a coin successful, a lot of these coins, is their marketing. And they put a lot of money into their marketing budget. And what do they do with that money? They go and they give it to someone that's going to talk about it, someone with a large following, and that's going to create a market for their coin. So something to keep in mind, right? With these fake, that's why they're fake gurus. You know, they're really just marketers. They're just they're the same as you know, someone selling shoes or someone selling men's styling tips. I mean, they're just selling coins. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, what about Facebook? Okay, let's take a look. Thank you. Okay, no problem, no problem. All right, I missed the gold, dollar, and okay. Well, so like I said, as far as my new format, you want to see them, just put them in the chat. I'm just going to remove them for now, unless people want. I'm going to do it basically on demand. So you put the question in the chat, I'll take a look at it. Okay, please advise on total market cap and pullback. Well, as far as like that total market cap, I don't really follow that. I don't follow that. I know everyone talks about market cap and blah, blah, blah. I understand, but I'm mostly chart focused, right? What the information that means the most to me are levels and price structures. That's what I make my decisions on. I really don't care if Bitcoin has a $10 trillion market cap. I don't care if Ethereum has a $9 bazillion, $fillion market cap. And it doesn't really mean anything to me. Okay, I don't care if Cardano has to, you know, they're going to have an $8 bazillion market cap, and who cares? So the only data points that I think might be interesting on some of those things is their coin, the circulation, their coin supply, right? Is it a coin with 10 trillion coins out there, something like SHIB, or is a coin have like 90 million coins, like Litecoin, right? That's an important thing to consider. But besides that, it's really not important to me. What's most important, since I'm a very short-term oriented trader, and so I'm only interested in structures and how price action relates to those structures. That's all I want to know. And based on that, I'm looking for one thing. I'm not looking for rewards. I'm looking for risk. I want to see things that show me a certain type of risk. And a lot of times, you know, the market may be doing something good, but I don't like the risk. So I don't want to take it. It doesn't mean other people shouldn't take it. The other thing too is sometimes things happen so quickly, it's hard to even get something out. You know, like it's very hard to get something out on time and this and that. When some of these things act, especially when it's like 3 a.m. and I actually have to sleep sometimes, you know, so it's hard. Anyway. Yeah, so that's the answer to that. I know I'm just talking a lot now. Okay, Facebook, right, Facebook. All right, let's take Facebook is something, I'm going to wrap it up after Facebook. So, they changed their name. They're so dumb. Okay, anyway, no, I know the whole story behind that. Anyway, so here's the thing, and this has actually caused a lot of hype in the altcoin space because they're saying certain gaming coins and certain blah, 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 based on this Facebook thing, blah, 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 right? So everyone's going to be a millionaire now on buying those coins. Right. Okay, I understand. So here's the thing. What are the levels on Facebook? Look at this double top on Facebook. Look at today's candle. Look at yesterday's candle. Right? Bearish pin bar in a noted resistance area. Okay, noted resistance, bearish pin bar, took out the pin bar. That's not good, as Seinfeld would say. Why is Facebook selling off? So it takes out the low of that, but it's basically has done that. You have a sell signal here. And not a good place for buying it, that's for sure. If you want to buy this thing, at least wait for the range low, because Facebook has basically been consolidating, right? This is not really a trend on the shorter time frame. Shorting this would be super aggressive. I don't like shorting, especially right now with all the nonsense and all the stimulus and all the government political garbage that's been going on in this country in terms of irresponsible economic policy. All that other stuff, you can't fight that stuff, right? And I think a lot of that is the reason why we see these markets vertical, okay? Because they've made so much money available, and all of that money is finding its way into these altcoins and these markets and stocks and this and that. So I think that's, you know, part of the reason. My point is, you can't fight that. No matter what our opinion is, you can't fight it. So my point with Facebook is this: the opportunity, the higher probability opportunity would be this low. What is that? 312. So you can even round that to almost the $300 level, right? Around there, or maybe the midpoint. That's going to be a little more aggressive because this thing is basically consolidating, okay? So you have to see how that thing plays out, but that's what I would do. Shorting this is just asking for trouble because there's just too much euphoria and there's too much hype in these markets. You're better off waiting for the long, unless you're, you know, looking to day trade. That's a different story, but I'm not talking about that. You know, speaking of this, let me just take a quick look at FANG. Okay, now this is the group of them, right? FANG, you know, FANG, Facebook and that whole group. Look at the pin bar on FANG. Okay, bearish pin bar. Also notice on FANG, no new high. Okay, no new high. See that? So again, that's a sign of relative weakness. And if these things can't go, how's Apple? No new high. How did the Nasdaq close today? Bearish. What is this? 334 minus 20 points. So this thing is due for a pullback. Okay. Now, again, you're going to have people trying to short this. It's a bad idea. Wait for this pullback. And that's probably where Facebook will give you your opportunity. That's why I'm bringing this chart up, because you have to use these charts, these market charts, for something like Facebook. Facebook is a market stock generally. Yeah, there's some specific news that will drive that thing, but you want to keep an eye on, you know, the Nasdaq and the S&P when it comes to something like Facebook. Okay. All right, cool. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. Let me just see here. Chart. The MCAP chart works just as a chart against USD. TA works there too. There's also price and resistance in total. Oh yeah, I remember, Kai, you mentioned total. Right, I remember taking a look at that. So, well, look, if you find that to be helpful, for me, you know, people ask me about some of these charts, like, you know, the long short Bitcoin thing and the market cap and the dominance charts. They ask me about these things, and you know, if they give you some sort of insight that maybe gives you some more confidence, okay. But for me, they're just an extra layer of complexity. I try to keep things as simple as possible. My goal is to be able to make a decision with the least amount of information possible. That's what will give me the confidence and the ability to go forward with it. Otherwise, I'll sit there, and especially as a day trader, you especially have to be able to do that. But I want less information, not more, because I know that 99% of the information out there at the retail level is completely useless. I know that. So it's not like I have an insider giving me information saying, oh yeah, right, this is what's going to happen. Okay, then that's good, that's valuable information. But most of this other stuff, especially if it's available for free and everyone has access to it, most of it is just an extra layer of complexity. So I want the least amount of information possible so that I can measure risk and get a loose probability on something and go from there. And then it's up to the market, okay? It's not up to me anymore. It's up to the market once I press that button. So anyway, all right, so I'll leave you with that. Man, I've been talking a lot today. I was trying to make this a little shorter, but okay. So I'm long from the middle of that range. Oh, all right, so Bart, so if you're green, I would say it would be wise to. I don't want to give you trade advice, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to take something off the table if you have some profit, because that's a failed high right there. That's a fake out on Facebook. Okay, whatever they want to call themselves. That's a failed high. So just something to keep in mind. The breakout should have followed through, and plus the whole market is potentially at a short-term top, right? Again, another minus for Facebook. So just something to keep in mind, all right? Anyway, okay, so no problem. Yeah, so I'll just leave you with this. Again, to time markets, not only do you have to have an open mind, but you want to be efficient with the energy that you use to make decisions. You don't have to look at 9 million things. More is not better in this game. I've found that less is more. That's why my charts are so bare. I don't need oscillators. And trust me, it's not like I have a closed mind and I've never tried them. I've worked with all the main ones that you all know about. I've worked with one for years. I spent on this one stupid oscillator. And you know what I realized after about almost 10 years of it? That it's random and useless. But I used it for so long because I was told that it's special. And I didn't know any better. Okay, and I thought there was something to it. I was doing something wrong. Oh, you must be doing something wrong. No, it's random. That's what the problem was, because I would make some money and lose it, make it, lose it, make it, lose it. And I couldn't figure out, I'm doing everything right. I'm taking the signals. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. What am I missing? It's random. So if you're relying on that oscillator, for example, your outcome is going to be random. I got rid of all that garbage, all that junk, okay? I just look at, and I found the pieces of information in the market that allow me to make a decision, a reasonable decision, and manage risk with the least information possible, right? And that's like the whole point of my ebook, by the way. Anyway, I'm not going to sit here and push my ebook. So just that should be like a goal. You know, you want to improve your timing and all that stuff. Think about this for a moment, and then I'm going to hang this thing up. Think about this for a moment. Most retail traders don't make money, okay? Think about, people right away, they think, oh, well, maybe they're just not intelligent. Oh, or maybe, they're just whatever. They're just, reacting. No, the problem is they're focused on the wrong information. That's what the problem is. And the reason why they're focused on all the information, the wrong information, is because that's all they're fed. And they don't realize that there's no advantage to it. They assume that there's some kind of advantage. They assume that there's some kind of value because that's what logic tells us. Oh, my broker sent me this news report. That must be, oh, look, the company report was good. That must be good, right? That's all obvious stuff. There's no advantage to it. So in this game, as the retail trader, our job as a retail trader, our purpose, I shouldn't say our job, our purpose is to basically supply the professionals with profits, okay? They profit from us and our lack of understanding and our, what's the word I'm looking for? Lack of understanding and our ignorance, that's the word, ignorance. And what I mean by ignorant is it's not that you're not intelligent, it's you're most retail traders are all following the same information and doing the same things. Stop doing these things, okay? Stop looking at a green chart and thinking it's good, all right? Look at the levels, look at the location. How much higher do you think it's going to go, right? Good on a chart is usually not good. Bad on a chart, right? So I saw one guy, oh, just buy red and sell green. Okay, he had the right idea, but red could become more red. So you need to understand context. Right? And that's really what it comes to. And you don't need, my point of this rant here is you don't need 10 million tools to understand context. You need some basic pieces of information. You need to know how to organize these pieces of information. And then based on that, you can have a definite measure of risk. And I'm talking from the swing trade perspective because investing is a little different. But you can have enough information to ascertain some level of risk and then determine a loose probability if this should go this way or not, and that's it. Okay, from there, you let the market do the rest. Okay, so anyway, all right. So you don't, okay, right. So the oscillator, Todd, is the CCI. All right, I spent many years with the CCI. It's basically, it's just a graphical form of a moving average. I mean, I know every little detail there is to know about that stupid oscillator. It doesn't work. I'm telling you right now, it does not work. It will get you into trouble, especially if you don't understand it. But I spent a lot of time on it, and it makes no money. Most oscillators, 99% of them, there's no advantage to any of them. Okay? If there was an advantage, then they would all be automated and people would be making money, right? But everyone has access to these oscillators. It's because they have no advantage. Their outcome is random. Most information, most tools will come out with the same outcome, random. So the only way to gain some sort of advantage is to be able to think ahead of the herd. And there are certain pieces of information that will allow you to position your mindset ahead of the herd and be prepared for how they are likely to react. And then when the market proves your idea, oh, that's how there's a buy signal at a support level on a broader bullish trend. Chances are it's going to go higher. Okay, I mean, that's what it comes to. Anyway, okay, right, the RSI, and I can just tell you now, if you depend on that, your results will be random. And all oscillators, like everything else, will work during a clear trend. But when markets are changing and they're no longer in a clear trend, these things will throw you off, and the random nature will cost you a lot of money. I've been through it all, so trust me, I know. Okay, right, so take it off your screen, okay? Like I said before, make it your goal to be able to make decisions with less information. I mean, you see my naked charts here. I draw boxes, I draw lines, okay? I'm looking at candlesticks, I'm looking at structures. I mean, and that's it. That's all I need, okay, for this time frame. Anyway, all right, so that's enough. I keep talking, and I keep saying I'm going to stop talking, and I don't stop. So I'm going to stop now. All right, so everyone, thank you for joining me. Thank you for the great questions. Again, I'm going to try this new format where I focus more on your questions. If you'd like to see some of those older markets that I used to talk about on a regular basis, like S&P and blah, 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 simply ask me in the chat, and I'll be very happy to review one of those charts like any other chart, okay? So that's how it'll go. I think people liked it here today, so I'll try this again here on Thursday. So thank you very much. Wherever you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, and thank you very much for watching.